All right, everybody. Well, we are going to get started. Thank you for joining us today. This presentation will be recorded, so please mute yourself and turn your mics and cameras off. At the end, if there are any questions, or you can unmute yourself or feel free to put those questions within the chat feature. This PDO is for students that will be going to the Rome Center for spring of 2026. So let's talk about staff introductions. Hopefully, a lot of us do look familiar to you. First, I'd like to introduce here Marley Stein. She is the Director of Study Abroad, and this is her contact information. Next, I'd like to introduce our Rome Center Assistant Directors for Recruitment. That is Abby Linneman and Adam Schilling. And again, here is their contact information. Most, if not all of you, have worked with them at some point when you were interested in the Rome Center or going through the application process. And then myself, my name's Alana Carroll, and I am the Study Abroad Coordinator, and I work on all the post-acceptance side of things. So if you are in the process, or hopefully you've submitted your visas, if you don't have an EU or Italian passport, then you've worked with me at some form or fashion in getting all those materials collected for submission. So again, you'll have access to this recording and to these slides, hopefully by the end of this week. And so we have our contact information here, and you can always go back to review anything that you need. So I also like to take this opportunity to introduce you, if you have not met, some of our study abroad staff members are peer ambassadors. We have Izzy Vickers, she is a study abroad peer ambassador, and we also have Carolyn Hicks, who's a Rome Center peer ambassador. And so their information, their contact information is here, and then they do walk-ins, and these are the days and times in which they're in our office in the Sullivan Center to 206. And so feel free if you have some questions to meet with them. Sometimes it's a little more relaxed to meet with your peers versus with some of us. So either or, we have lots of options for you to be in contact and to chat about the program. So today, our orientation overview, we are going to talk about cultural adaptations, identities abroad, health and safety, wellness abroad, what the Rome campus looks like, the academics and course registration, which you probably are all in the middle of doing this week, and then tips, preparation, and next steps. So the goals that we want to achieve through this pre-departure orientation is recognizing what that cultural adaptation and how it may intersect with your identities while you're abroad. Understanding your health and safety resources abroad, making sure that you're comfortable utilizing those before you depart. And then in general, just feeling prepared for your study abroad and for your program in Rome. So with that, I am going to pass it off to Marley Stein, our Director of Study Abroad, and she will discuss cultural adaptation. Take it away, Marley.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here today. We're going to go through and discuss the various ups and downs that you might experience as you're adapting to your new host culture. So the overview of today for the cultural adaptation section is understanding what is cultural adaptation and how you can avoid or be prepared for cultural misunderstandings, understanding the various phases, and then also thinking about tips for managing cultural adaptation and building intercultural competence. So what is culture? Can some of you put in the chat kind of your definition of culture? This can be from your lived experiences. This can be from something you maybe learned in class or school. How would you all define culture? Just throw it in the chat if you have an idea. I don't see anything, but maybe my chat is not working. That's okay. As we go through this presentation, feel free to put your responses in the chat as well. So culture can be defined many different ways. This is one more sociological definition of culture. It is defined as the shared patterns of behaviors and interactions, cognitive constructs, and the effective understanding that are learned through a process of socialization. So shared patterns, shared similarities, behaviors, interactions. And then these patterns identify who pertains to a group and who doesn't pertain to that group. So the shared patterns identify the members of a cultural group while also distinguishing those of another group. So this is a helpful tool. It's Hofstede's theory on cultural comparison. This is called the Cultural Factors Country Comparison Tool. You can access this online. I encourage you to go to that website and not only compare the differences between the culture in Italy and the United States, but also think about your own identity, your own cultural, your own nationality, and how maybe a third culture or a fourth culture interacts with these two different identities. And again, these are generalizations. There are regional differences within Italy, regional differences within the United States that are not always captured, but this is a starting point to begin your reflection on some of these topics. So as you see here, there's a large difference between uncertainty avoidance, individualism, there's a little bit of a difference, indulgence, there's quite a large difference, power distance, there's quite a large difference. And so in terms of, just to speak about a couple of them, you'll find that in the US, we're a much more individualist society. So we're a very capitalist society where there are elements, especially in more rural or southern parts of Italy, where it's more of a collectivist culture. Or not maybe as much as some Asian cultures, but in terms of Italy, it is less than the United States in terms of individualism. And then uncertainty avoidance. In the US, we tend to be a little bit more Anglo in our culture, in the sense that we don't like to directly ask. We say, please, may I have, would you mind, can I, and kind of dancing around the direct question. Also, this is a little bit generational as well. But in Italy, they are very direct. If there is a issue or a challenge, they're going to tell you exactly how it is directly. You'll also find this in just linguistics. If any of you are interested in learning Italian, it's a very beautiful language, but it is much more direct in the way the sentence structure is. And so sometimes when an Italian is speaking in English, it'll come off even more direct because they're applying their own linguistic knowledge to their way they're interacting with you. And then the other one you'll see is indulgence. We at Loyola are very sustainable. We're very focused on global supporting the global well-being and global goals. But in the larger U.S., that is not necessarily as common in terms of recycling, sustainability, and in Italy, they are much more resourceful and they really utilize their resources. You'll see this a lot if you take the food and wine class. And so they're less indulgent in their consumption, where the US is quite a consumption focused society. And so that's kind of a main difference you'll see between Italy and the United States. Yeah. And so the concept of surface culture and deep culture, or visible and invisible culture, is really important as you're beginning to interact with locals and your peers and your faculty and staff who are from Italy, but also from many other cultures and communities as well. So there are things in surface culture such as food, dress, music, things you can see, literature, language, ways that you celebrate. And that's usually when people think of culture, the first definition that they are drawn to. So I was interested to see what you all might have said in terms of your definition of culture, because a lot of times these are the first things that people bring up. And oftentimes we forget to reflect or think about the things that are under deep culture, which are things that are commonly overlooked. And so these might be things about personal space. Italy, they are much closer talkers than we are in the US. The nature of friendships, the ideals of child rearing, concepts of food, definitions of self, concept of the past and the future. All of this is very cultural. So I encourage you to ask questions of your staff and your faculty, and then also any peers or locals that you might meet about these topics and how they view or approach it. A couple that you'll notice right away will be nonverbal communication, body language, touching, eye contact. Italians are a very warm culture. They're very likely to be in your personal space. They have an entire element of the Italian language that is actually nonverbal communication, so using hand gestures and things like that. So definitely observe those things as you're studying abroad, and talk about them with locals and the Rome Center staff. So cultural adaptation is known as the long-term process of adjusting to and finally feeling comfortable in a new environment. There used to be this concept of culture shock. And so now the literature has kind of evolved that it's an adaptation process where there are highs and lows and not necessarily one singular moment of shock that will happen to you. So I like to look at it as cultural misunderstandings or bumps, as opposed to kind of that jarring language of cultural shock, culture shock. So throughout your time in your host country, you may experience cultural bumps, and these are when a misunderstanding might happen between you and somebody who comes from a different frame of mind or framework in terms of negotiating conflict. A cultural bump occurs when a person has an expectations of how a particular behavior might occur and get something different when interacting with individuals from another culture. When there are miscommunications due to differing cultural norms and language barriers, it can result in potentially an unpleasant experience. However, these cultural bumps are also meant to be learning opportunities and can result in cultural or linguistic growth. Like I said before, we encourage you to ask questions and follow up if there's anything unclear. And so when you're interacting with individuals, it's important to check your own expectations at the door, and to be mindful of your upbringing and your cultural environment that you've been exposed to thus far, and how that might influence how you're interpreting the actions of someone else. And they also, vice versa, are doing that as well with you. So be open-minded in that regard. So this is a very basic representation of the curve. So when you first get there, you're going to enter into this honeymoon phase. You're going to be very positive, curious. You're going to want to try and do everything. You might even idealize the Italian culture, saying that, the food's better, the people are nicer, are warmer, the weather's better, everything, the government is better. You might say everything, everything is better in Italy. But at that point, you're in the honeymoon phase where you might be viewing things with rose-colored glasses. Fortunately or unfortunately, you kind of come back down to reality, where you start to see that there are things that are wonderful about your new host environment and host country, and there are things that might be challenging for you to adapt to, or might be points of frustration. You start to feel that what is different might just be inferior, and so then you have more of a disdain or a questioning of the host culture because it's confusing or the systems are frustrating. I think one of those is that it's a little bit slower pace. They're not always rushing to get to the next thing. But if you've grown up in a major city, or you are used to US culture, it can be confusing or frustrating when things take much longer to get through certain processes. And then you'll move into the acceptance phase. This is when you start to feel more relaxed, and you have these strong critical thinking skills to develop a more balanced, objective view of your experience. This is different, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's inferior. Or this is different, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's better. These are elements that I want to embrace. These are elements that I would like to maintain of my host culture. So you kind of strike that balance between your host culture and your home culture. Sorry, not host culture, home culture. But this is, I always give both examples of the curve, because it's not necessarily this perfect W or M. It really is a lot of ups and downs in each phase. So you'll see the honeymoon, it goes up, then it goes down, it goes up again, frustration, there's all those cultural bumps up and down. And then adaptation, you're going to start to make progress, but there's going to be low points even as you adapt to your new host culture. And then once you feel like, hey, I'm an Italian local, I understand everything, I feel really comfortable navigating this city and this country, you're going to return home and things are going to be different, even though it was a culture and a community that you once knew, and you'll have that same sort of cultural adaptation again, but from a reentry perspective. So we usually do discussion for these questions. So I'm going to encourage you all to put your answers in the chat. I'm going to pause for a moment to give you some time for that, and then we'll move on. So reflect on what do you know about the host culture and people, and how does that impact your perceptions as you prepare for study abroad? And then how would you describe the US culture or your own culture identity, and what perceptions might others have of the US? How might those descriptions or perceptions differ? I'm going to give you a minute or two to put some answers in the chat. But again, these are really just questions for your own self-reflection. They're a little bit more difficult to do in the online forum. All right, we'll continue on. All right. So these are some common concerns of study abroad students. So not that you might see as you're going through the cultural adaptation process. It can be difficult to communicate in another language, understand and adjust to the educational system. Fortunately, the Rome Center is very similar to Loyola's system, in the sense that you're taught Loyola courses, but you are taught by local professors. So there might be some differences in how they approach teaching and learning in the specific classroom. But generally, the assessments and the discussions will be similar to what you're used to at Loyola Chicago. A lot of students are worried about making friends or dating people with a different cultural background. Some students have found that they feel misunderstood due to different communication styles. And you're going to have a strong comfort zone because you're going to the Rome Center with all of your fellow Loyola students, but also with students from other US institutions. And so it's important that you don't let the fear or the concern about making friends or connecting with others outside of the Rome network stop you from engaging with locals, because you might feel misunderstood due to different communication styles, and that's okay. Adjusting to different foods and eating customs, you might find culturally relevant faith community, you might experience discrimination. It's possible that you'll have feelings of loneliness, homesickness, helplessness, fearful of your safety at certain points. You might be unsure of yourself or feel confused or that you don't belong at time as well. But I'm going to go through some resources to help you feel supported. So what can you do to reduce these stressors that I went over? Those are common, they're unavoidable, they're different for everybody. Be patient with your others and yourself. Remember personal goals and strengths, see the adventure of it and take risks. So small steps and small risks are completely okay. You don't need to do everything all at once. Take calculated, secure risks to learn and grow. Don't make friends only with students from home, but also with local students and with students from other universities. Maintain your own cultural heritage and appreciate other people's cultural heritage. So that's that balance of embracing the new but keeping the old. Laugh, cry, emote, let your emotions out as you're processing different things. Feel part of different communities. So participate in campus student organizations and events, learn about the campus culture and the local community, manage time effectively. It can be really exciting to be able to travel to different countries or cities on the weekends, but that takes away from your studies. So really try to make sure that you're not overexerting yourself so that you don't find that you're stressed out when it's too late to kind of manage the fun and the schoolwork. Deal with stress as it arises and don't let it accumulate. That goes along with that topic. If you're used to exercising or having a particular routine, keep that up while you're there because that will regulate your nervous system, and always ask for help when needed. All right. Again. So building resiliency, this is an activity in person we kind of break it down and allow students to discuss, but I'm just going to kind of go over what these tools that you all already have that you can build upon or draw upon in the study abroad setting. This is an exercise from the University of Michigan. Basically, when there, you're going to have stressors, you're going to have moments of down, you're going to have loneliness, you're going to have homesickness. But if you're able to rely on the resilience that you all already have from navigating new environments, you all came to Loyola as freshmen, you might have moved to do that, you have these skills, you've all been through difficult or challenging times. What tools within yourself did you rely on to kind of overcome those challenging times and make the most of any experience? And so that's what we want to help you do for your study abroad. So the first is self-awareness. This is a core factor for resilient people. It refers to knowledge of your own individuality, how you process thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. So this might be some student might journal. This might mean that you know what your particular triggers are and how to regulate those. I'm going to jump over to self-regulation, and that is related a little bit to self-awareness, but also the ability to acknowledge and express distress in a way that promotes well-being. So healthy regulation. This requires you to be self-aware, flexible thinking, and having connection and optimism, which we'll get to in a moment. So if you are someone who likes to journal, meditate, walk, read, connect with your peers, those are all things that can help you self-regulate in moments where you're going to be in an unusual, new, uncertain environment, and self-regulation will become key for that. So as I said, connection, flexible thinking, and optimism, they're all ways to self-regulate. So feeling alone is one of the primary concerns of study abroad. Fortunately, you are going to be part of a large Rome community, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to have feelings of being alone, because you might feel that your experience is so different than everybody else's that you might want to isolate. So I encourage you that if in the US, your way of avoiding feeling alone is to crave or seek out connection, to continue to do that at the Rome Center. The Student Life team offers a lot of different activities that will help you get to know students because it is a pretty big campus. There are a large number of students there. So if you need assistance in connecting with others in different ways, connect with the student affairs team there, student life team there, sorry. Flexible thinking, rigid ways of thinking give less choice in our behaviors. So which could lead to more subjective distress. So flexible thinking allows you to look at something from multiple perspectives and determine what will be the best response or approach given that particular situation, as opposed to a one size fits all approach. And then lastly, optimism. An optimistic attitude promotes psychological well-being. So glass half full. It can help you challenge unhelpful or unhealthy thinking. And if you always are putting a positive or optimistic spin on things, it will improve your mood, and it can help you identify what is and isn't within your control. We're going to skip the discussion sections. Great. Navigating your identities abroad. I do see someone that put something about the differences in culture, which I really appreciate. They wrote that Italy is known to be warm, they value work-life balance, breaks are encouraged, and the US is known to be more oriented, work-oriented and stricter with time and not overly friendly. Excellent example. And so kind of going into your experience in Rome, knowing that Italians have more of a work-life balance, where in the US we're more work-oriented, will help you understand why things might be slower paced or why others are approaching conflict or disagreements in a different way. Excellent. Thank you. So navigating your identities abroad. It's really important that you think about your personal identities and understand, will you be a part of any majority or minority groups while you're abroad? In the US, we have a very diverse country, but not every country has all of the same backgrounds as the US has. So understanding where your identity and your background might fit into the Rome Rome or Italian demographics. Also noting that different cultures have different perspectives regarding different identities. So do your research ahead of time, talk to the local Italians who've lived and grown up and have a much stronger understanding of the historical and sociological influences over race relations and and discussion of identity. Immigrant populations, things like that. But you'll want to find community wherever you are traveling or within Rome and at the Rome Center. So research local community groups associated with your identities. This can be a great way to meet locals who have a shared identity or similar interests and values, while also providing you with insights and support. This can be something related to your identity. This can be something related to a hobby, a religious group, anything like that. If you encounter microaggressions, racism, or harassment while abroad, inform your on-site program staff as soon as possible, and also let our office know so we can assist you in navigating it. And if you have questions or concerns about your particular identity, let us know, and we can connect you with students who might have similar or identities or have had similar experiences abroad, and we'll be able to speak to their experience and how you could potentially learn from it. I'm gonna skip. And so I mentioned that if you experience discrimination in any way, you'll want to let us know so we can support you and also the on-site staff. But there is a formal reporting structure at the University of Loyola, or sorry, Loyola University, and it applies to the study abroad space as well, even more so at the Rome campus. And so the Office of Equity and Compliance are a series of policies and reporting structure that promotes culture of inclusion, safety, and accessibility by implementing civil rights policies. They coordinate the response to reports and complaints of both discrimination, so anything related to biases, misconduct, but also sexual misconduct. So they are the Title IX coordinators. So if you experience any sexual harassment, sexual misconduct, you'll want to report it to OEC, and they'll do a not unbiased formal follow-up with your guidance and preferences taken into consideration. They also provide consultation, training, and support related to equity and compliance. It's a comprehensive policy, so it applies to all protected categories under state and federal civil rights laws, including students when they're outside of the US, because your rights are very different in different countries. But if you experience something, the OEC can help support you within the lens of the US protected categories. And then I put a link here, but there's also a link in your Go Global portal where you can report any of these instances, either for yourself or for your peers or for your colleagues. All right, I'm going to move into health and safety abroad. So the majority of injuries and illnesses on study abroad programs are related to alcohol abuse. That has remained consistent. And so please be mindful that if you are going to consume alcohol because you are of legal drinking age in Italy, that it is not going to be tolerated for abuse or misuse. Local laws apply. So if you are publicly intoxicated and you are sanctioned by local authorities, there's little we can do to support you there. So please be mindful to follow all local laws. No alcohol is to be consumed during program time or in program housing. And so that that's in congruence with Loyola's community standards and code of conduct. So please make sure you're reviewing both the Loyola Community Standards and Code of Conduct in your study abroad application and the Rome Center policies as well. If you are going to consume alcohol, use good judgment. Don't stay silent if you observe alcohol abuse by other program participants. And if you are consuming alcohol, if all 5 of you go to a bar, all 5 of you need to come back together or have a buddy system. Don't leave your peers alone, and don't be alone when alcohol is present. Look out for one another and keep each other safe. Also, drug possession / use is grounds for immediate sanctions. So please make sure that you are not breaking local laws and that you are subject to all of the local or all of the LUC community standards and code of conduct here at Loyola. Also, we do check your SRCR records right before you go abroad, and if there is a violation, you may not be able to go abroad. So make sure you're on your best behavior leading up to your study abroad semester, because you don't want to lose out on that experience because of a mistake you might have made on campus. sorry. In preparation, make sure that you visit your physician, discuss important health accommodations and how you will manage these abroad. Discuss medical conditions such as mental health and allergies, because they might need to be managed abroad differently. If you have prescriptions, make sure that you have enough to sustain you for your full semester, or obtain the medical name and begin working with your study abroad advisor to determine if you can fulfill those prescriptions abroad. They can also connect you with our CISI insurance, which you'll learn a bit more about later, about how you might be able to obtain prescriptions in country if needed. Most medications require you to travel with doctor's prescription or a letter from a physician. So don't just dump your medicine into a plastic bag because it's easier to travel with. Keep it in its original package if you can't. You never know who's going to ask a question. Make sure that you consult the CDC website for Italy. That's going to give you guidance on what prescriptions are permitted and aren't. And then also which immunizations are required by local Italian authorities as well. These are a few travel and immunization clinics you can go to, or you also can seek guidance from your local practitioner, or either a doctor or a PA or something like that before you go abroad. So do your research, review pre-departure materials. We're telling you all this so that in the event of an emergency, you know where and how to find the resources. Stay updated on health conditions in Italy. Again, the CDC website will notify you of that, and then so will CISI if there's any changes, because you're registered for their alert system. Research the socio-political climate and other safety matters. So look at the US Department of State, travel.state.gov. They have travel advisories about crime, health, you name it, and that'll give you some guidance on exit and entry requirements as well. And then also know country-specific health and safety information. These are my quick list of how to stay safe abroad. The main one is use common sense while abroad. You all are used to navigating a major city. Some of you might have moved to a new town or a new city, and you have the skills for assessing safety as you walk. Don't carry large amounts of cash. Pickpocketing is very, very common in Rome. Or if you are going to have cash on you or credit cards, make sure they're in multiple places. Be careful with your phone and other high value items. Phones are very commonly stolen as well. So try to look up, enjoy the environment, learn how to navigate streets without GPS. I know that's something I personally struggle to do, but having your phone out kind of makes you an easy target. And so making sure that you keep that locked away or hidden away in your belongings. This goes without saying, but do not buy, consume, or sell drugs. Do not drink in excess or accept drinks from strangers. Avoid public demonstrations. Activism is great, and we want you to speak out about injustices or things that you feel passionate about. But public demonstrations can simply turn from safe to violent very quickly. And as an expatriate or as a international student in that country, you don't have the same rights as every other person there. So be mindful if you, to not be a part of public demonstrations. If you want to get involved or volunteer, talk to the student life team and they can find an option for you. Never walk home alone or accept a ride from a stranger. Balduina is very, very safe, but it's still in your best interest to not walk alone or go anywhere with a stranger. Walk with a purpose. Be aware of traffic patterns. There's very narrow pedestrian streets, and so sometimes very narrow streets or pedestrian only streets. So try to be on the pedestrian only streets. You'll have a much more relaxing time. If you're walking on one of those narrow streets and a car's coming by, make sure you get out of their way because they will not stop for you. And if you go to the coast, make sure that you don't swim in water without a lifeguard on duty. Obey all signs and know that some locations or the ocean or the sea is going to have a lot stronger currents than we're used to here in Lake Michigan. So it is your responsibility to contact the SAC and complete their accommodation request form. Once you complete the accommodation request form, you'll be assigned an advisor or a case manager that will put together an accommodation for you while abroad. It's important that you all are proactive. They are a small team and they serve a lot of students. So if you need an accommodation abroad, make sure you reach out to them. All Go Global requirements were due on November 1st. So if you were looking for housing accommodations, those should have already been submitted. You can still submit them. It just might not be as possible to make your requested accommodation. If you are requesting anything related to your classroom time, your academics, that will work how it does here at Loyola, where it'll send your professor recommendations for how to accommodate your needs in the classroom. If it's related to housing, those will go directly to student life team. Anything related to allergies, severe allergies, you'll also want to report or share with the SAC so that they can formally document your accommodation request. There are some on-site mental health resources and physical health resources. The Wellness Center in Rome, they're open pretty much every day, and they are made up of Dr. Guerrero, who is the on-site doctor. He can be reached 24 hours a day via WhatsApp. There's also an on-site nurse that's there a few days a week as well for minor illnesses and concerns. And then Dr. Shala Ahmadi, she is the as a psychologist and psychotherapist and assistant director of counseling here at Loyola. And so she has appointments with students if you need ongoing wellness care. And then if you do need a psychiatrist, they have someone that they refer out to who can prescribe things as needed. These are emergency resources and procedures. I'm going to talk briefly about them, and then Alana Carroll is going to go in depth about them as they relate to CISI insurance. These are all of your emergency numbers. In the event of an emergency, your first point of contact is going to be the local equivalent of 911, and then the on-site staff that can assist with getting you to a hospital or coordinating your care team.
All right. Well, let's talk about, thanks, Marley. We're going to talk about student visas and arrivals. At this point, most of all of you should have either submitted your student visa materials at this stage. If you have not, please reach out to me so that we can discuss that and make sure that we have a plan in place and that you're getting everything submitted right away, because this is a time-sensitive process. And so we want to make sure that you are not delayed in your arrival to Italy. Also, just as a reminder, you can access those visa resources, the workshops, the recordings, the slides, things like that. It is all on your Go Global brochure page. So make sure that you're utilizing those resources to help guide you. And again, I am a resource for you as well. So reach out to me if you are unsure about something and I can help you. And you can always set up a Navigate appointment or just shoot me an email and I can see what's available and we can work from there. So, regarding student visas, you are required to have a student visa unless you hold a valid Italian or EU passport. Most of you that if you do have that Italian or EU passport have identified that and with your upload or have reached out to our office. And so we've kind of placed a tag per se on your application so we know that you will not need to file or apply for a student visa. But the rest of you, if you are a US citizen or from a different country, you will need to have that student visa. So your visa submissions can be one of the following ways. It could be that in-person consulate appointments, which some of you have successfully obtained, which is wonderful. Keeping in mind that those appointments from that Prenota website that the Italian government runs can be no later than 30 days before the program start date. So if you do have some scheduled for November, that's great, but you don't want anything later than December 13th. In addition to that, we're very lucky for the students that are here in Chicago at Loyola. You can do what's called a physical drop-off at the Chicago consulate during their public hours. There is no appointment needed. And that processing, I know it states here 4 to 8 weeks, but we are looking more at 8 weeks. As we approach the holidays, the office here in Chicago gets a little bit busier as they do serve 11 different states. So if you can imagine all the public and private university students that are coming into the system, that delay is more about 8 weeks. So again, if you haven't submitted, please reach out to me so we can discuss and make sure that you're getting that done ASAP. The third option for a visa submission is to mail in via UPS or FedEx. And again, that processing can take about 8 weeks. We've also just I want to point out this QR code that'll take you directly to that brochure page that has all the resources. So you can go there and look at everything for assistance, or again, as I say, reach out to me. Lastly, I just always tell students once you do receive that student visa, make sure to upload a copy of that into your Go Global because come December, I am looking at those uploads to make sure that everybody has those student visas. And so, I get a little nervous when I don't see those. And then if a student, I reach out, they say, oh, I've had it for like 2 months. It's like a little frustrating. So please just make sure to take a picture and upload that to your application. It makes my life easier and yours as well. So, arrival in Rome. I always say, let's make a plan. There are no staff at the airport. So you are going to be navigating from the international airport in Rome to the campus. So, especially if you're landing at FCO airport in Rome, you're going to navigate once you get off the plane to customs. They'll check you in through there with your passports, and then you'll move along to baggage claim to get all your bags and your luggage. And then you'll start to look for signs for the taxi stands. They're very well, the signage is great. It's on the floors, it's up on the walls, things like that. You are going to be looking for those licensed taxis. They usually are yellow or white and they're identified by a number shield on the side and they're metered. So I always tell students, the excitement's going, the adrenaline, your phone may not be working when you first get off the plane. So I always tell students to write down the address on a piece of paper. And so when you do get into that taxi, you might be thrown off. Again, that cultural adaptation, they might be speaking very fast, or you're not understanding them, or they're speaking in Italian. Um, just make sure that you have the address for the Rome Center so that you can show them. And like I said, it's a very popular, well-known university there. So almost all the taxi drivers will know exactly where to go, but it's nice to have that on hand. The ride from FCO to campus is about 30 minutes. You'll go on some highways, some side streets. Just be patient. You will get to campus. As we indicate, it is in a residential neighborhood, so don't be alarmed when you're doing all these zigzags going, where am I going? They will get you there. Sometimes students will meet other students on the plane. So I always tell that encourage you to wear something Loyola, whether it's a scarf, a hat, sweatshirt, t-shirt, things like that. Because when you're on that plane flying over to Italy, you may want to ask that fellow Loyola student if they want to share a taxi, which is always nice. You're not going to become best friends, or maybe you will. I'm not sure. But it is always nice to kind of split some of the fees when it comes to the taxis. And so an average cost for a taxi from FCO Airport to the Rome Center is about 90 euros one way. So it's always nice to have the ability to split that with someone. And then once you do arrive on campus, keeping in mind it is a gated community, very safe, but they should have some staff there welcoming you. And you go through the gates, you will begin that check-in and move-in process. So that is what I always say as far as the plan for your arrival. So that check-in, what that's going to look like for you when you do arrive at the Rome Center, you're going to go to the front desk and they will direct you to a location on campus where the official check-in process begins. That in that spot, you will receive your room keys and other important information, schedules, orientation, things like that, roommates, etc. Later in the afternoon on that arrival day, there will be floor meetings and a group dinner, which is a wonderful time to meet your fellow students, fellow peers that are going to be there on site. It's an excellent meal. And then the next few days will be orientation meetings, which are really important because they get you acclimated to the area and they talk about transportation, things like that. So you'll have some academic presentations. You'll also have an orientation trip, which is wonderful. Again, a great opportunity to meet others and some workshops. And all of these are mandatory. So it's important that you attend all of these. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Abby and Abby to discuss campus and student life.
Thanks, Alana.
Sure.
Let's dive into it. These are your wonderful people on the ground with you at the Rome Center. This is your student life team. These are the people that are going to be really impactful in shaping your experience as a student at the Rome Center for that semester. They will be leading trips into the city, trips to different Italian cities out of the country. Um, Anything you might need from like navigating anything related to housing, residence halls, meal plans, all that kind of stuff, anything on campus to like where do I go for a like more off the beaten path, non-touristy experience in Rome. Um, where's what cultural events are happening in Rome this month that I could look into. Um, these are your people on the ground that are going to help you direct you to those places, those things that are happening in Rome. All of these people have been in the city for a long time and are very well acquainted with all the nooks and crannies of Rome. Regarding your housing, most of you should have submitted your housing application by now through Locus. That student life team you just saw determines the housing assignments you have in Rome. As you probably know, your residence halls are going to look like those pictures on the right. They're doubles, they'll have bathrooms in the room, they'll have air conditioning, kind of more modern amenities you're used to, like the residence halls here in Chicago, for example, or at your home university. So you should have gone through Locus and gone into Mercury to do your housing application. If you know somebody, if you're planning on rooming with someone you know, you put each other's names down in there. Otherwise, you can go random and meet someone new. You should have done this by now. If not, please do that as soon as possible. If you have any issues accessing that, definitely get in touch with the student life team in Rome. They'll be able to help you there. But you'll be notified of like your rooming assignment and everything by December. This is where you'll be spending a lot of time. This is the neighborhood the Rome Center is in Balduina. If you kind of like imagine the bottom of this map and then going up straight is kind of going up a hill. Um, Down towards the bottom is like getting down towards the Vatican into the city center, the Centro Storico, all the kind of like touristy spots. But Balduina has a ton of things to do for you as a student. There's a wonderful market in the middle there. There's lots of cafes and shops. Um, Anything you might need for a good time, especially food, um, gelato, all the accoutrement there. And then, of course, some great um, like social spots, your metro stop at the bottom of the hill where you'll take the train into the city, or to another Italian city, the Stadio Olimpico, where AS Roma plays their home games. It's one of Rome's soccer teams, is not too far away either. And you've got those two bus lines there in green and like reddish pink. Those are the main buses you'll be using to get into downtown, into the heart of Rome. And then we'll talk about some resources that you'll have available as a student there in the campus. So right off the bat, you all have a meal plan for lunch and dinner during your time there at the Rome Center. They'll pretty much be open 7 days a week unless there's some kind of break, and you can check the calendar for those dates so you know ahead of time. Um, they do serve Italian food, but it is a dining hall, so keep in mind you're not going to like a five-star gourmet Italian restaurant every day. But I've eaten there. The staff, and the faculty that are with you at the Rome Center eat there every day. So you should have a lot of good options with a heavy Italian focus. Everything that is put out to eat has dietary info displayed in English. So if you have any dietary restrictions, allergies, things like that, you'll know what you're eating. And there's lots of vegetarian options too. Also, like if you want something in particular, you can usually just talk to the staff. They're pretty personable and pretty amenable, and everything. So you just scan with your ID to get in for lunch and dinner. You get one swipe for lunch and dinner, pretty much like you do at the dining halls here in Chicago. And then you right down the hall, the other side is Ronaldo's Cafe. You'll have a $250 declining balance for the semester for breakfast at the cafe. So this is an Italian breakfast. This is not bacon and eggs, biscuits and gravy. This is like a espresso and cornetto kind of thing, which at first you might be like, ah, but then after a couple weeks, you really enjoy it. Helps start the day right. Their hours are posted there. You can see those. They're usually not open on the weekends. They can change, but that's where a lot of students will just hang out, study. There's indoor and outdoor seating for both the Ronaldo's Cafe and the Mensa. So you should have quite a few lovely days weather-wise in Rome. So you always have a good chance to take your espresso outside. And then you just got some photos here. Of course, we've got wonderful pizza. That bottom left one is a interior of Ronaldo's. You kind of see the indoor outdoor seating. So pretty open, very clean, lots of good lighting. So it's a great place to have a meal or snack. I think we got another one here too. Yeah, there we go. Just some more photos. You can see some of the staff and some of the students there all dining. Pistachio croissant, Abby's favorite in the bottom right corner. Cornetto, sorry. The campus there, 5-acre campus, fully gated. So you have to scan with your student ID to get into the front gate, which is monitored 24/7 by a security guard or the porter. So you'll always know who is on campus is supposed to be there. You'll have laundry services that you can use for €2. And then you have sheet exchange every Tuesday, so you can get fresh sheets that you don't have to clean yourself. Highly recommend you do that. That's a great way to keep that fresh. Gym is open all pretty much all day. It's usually bigger than students think, but it's not 3 floors of house, so keep that in mind. If you do like running, also like the nature preserve in the neighborhood is wonderful too. Great for doing that. You can have 2 guests in your room throughout the day. Remember, no overnight guests are allowed, even if they're Loyola students who are studying abroad at different places in Europe and want to come visit you. Very harsh and strict on that, so keep that in mind. And then we do have weekly mass Sunday nights at 8 p.m. too at the chapel, which is one of the newer buildings and it has a beautiful interior. And you have some photos of the gym, all the equipment you would normally want to see in a gym and use, laundry in the bottom right, everything you're pretty much used to. And then we'll go talk about academics too. Most of you are or will be sophomores, juniors, seniors. You all know that no matter what major you are welcome to study at the Rome Center. But when you go to do course registration, which you're doing this week, make sure that if you haven't taken it already, you are registering in Italian 101, or if you have some kind of language exemption. If you don't register in Italian 101, Carla is going to send you an email at some point to put you into one. So make sure you put Italian 101 in your shopping cart. And just like here at Loyola Chicago on the Chicago site campus, you should be registering for at least 4 courses. I would say most students do 4 or 5, not too bad. And then you do have that Monday through Thursday schedule for that semester in Rome. So keep that in mind too. You'll have some Fridays free. There are 2 days, 2 Fridays throughout the entire spring semester where you'll have to have class just to make up for break time. So keep that in mind, but mostly you'll have those Fridays off. You can see the course listings on our website in Locus now. They have a ton of core offerings, so you can peruse those if you haven't already. Hopefully, you all have them in your shopping cart. Registration started yesterday, obviously, same as it is here in Chicago, so you know it's based on your course credits in terms of priority. So make sure you log into Locus to check your enrollment time when you can start doing that. Because some classes do fill up, especially some of the more popular ones, obviously. So make sure you're doing that and have some backups just in case like something gets full or you jump on the wait list. And if you have any issues with like prereqs or enrolling in those courses, make sure you email Carla too. So you grab a couple of core classes. All the classes, as you know, will be taught in English. And you probably, if you've met with me before, you've heard me say this, I highly, highly, highly recommend you take at least one on-site course throughout your time there, because that is not only, in my opinion, a great way to learn, especially if it's something, if you're like a STEM major and like history, classics, philosophy, theology is like not your jam. Like taking one of those as an on-site course will help it be more engaging and more interesting, and also has the ancillary benefit of like getting you more in touch with the city, you get a good lay of the land. You're like meeting your professors and going with your classmates to all these different places in the city itself throughout the semester. So please do yourself a favor, take at least one of those on-site courses. Um, Most of you, as Loyola students, will be pretty familiar with this, but in case we have any of our friends coming from non-Loyola schools, this is all in Locus. You go to the Managed Classes tile. Make sure you're in spring 2026, and very importantly, make sure you're searching for courses at the Rome Center campus. You'll know it's a Rome Center class if it's like course code has an A at the beginning of it. So don't accidentally register in a Chicago class or anything like that. You can kind of double verify that the course is being offered in Rome. And then when you go to, when you find the courses you want, you go add them to your cart, you put that 4-digit course number in there, and then you just hit enter and that'll put it in your shopping cart. Then you can enroll. If you want to do one of your courses as a pass, no pass, do that request in Locus, and make sure you're doing that like pretty much within the first couple weeks that you're there. So February 2nd is the deadline. You can only do it for one course. You have to do, there's no not for credit while you're there. And you can do one classes pass or no pass. So make sure if there's a class that you just want to have as pass, no pass, do that by February 2nd. And if you have any questions with that, just email Carla. Or if you're there by the time you land in January, just go talk to Carla. I mentioned this a couple slides ago, but if you have any issues with like prereqs or you know you've taken the prereq and it's telling you can't enroll, email Carla and CC Rome at luc.edu as well. She'll be able to help you, but sometimes there's like coding issues that Abby and I can help figure out. If you are coming from a non-Loyola school, make sure that you're taking the appropriate amount of credits for your study for your own home institution, study abroad guidelines, whatever it may be. Loyola's minimum is 12 credit hours, 4 classes. Some universities want their students to take 15 credit hours or 5 classes. Totally depends on where you're coming from. So make sure that you're checking with your own home, like study abroad institution of what that might be. Like Fordham and Santa Clara, for example, their students need to take 5 credits when they're with us, but Loyola requires 4. So make sure you're double checking that. And you can't take online courses while you're a student at the Rome Center. So all your courses should be Rome Center classes. Don't try to sneak like a online asynchronous class in there because Carla will find out. She'll get you. And just some notes from Carla. I mentioned the 2 Friday class days. You can put those in your calendar right now so you know that you'll have courses on those days. You'll have your day trip after you land in January on Friday, January 23rd. So don't plan any like out of country or any travel for that time. That's a really fun time where the entire cohort goes together and does a fun outing. And all of the dates for your spring semester are on the academic calendar right now. So we try to caution students not to book travel until you're actually there in Rome and you kind of know, like you get your syllabi and know when exams and quizzes are going to be, because of the small uh, staff campus and staff size there, like rescheduling stuff for travel is really difficult and it's just not allowed. And you should have plenty of time to make your plans for independent travel without like interfering with any of your course stuff. So um, just plan ahead, check all your boxes, then book your flights or your train tickets. If you're interested in doing a internship, this is the time. The time is now. A lot of you, we've had a couple of students already submit their stuff to Lorenza. This is a course that you get 3 credit hours for. You'll be doing your internship with an organization or a business in Rome. You do have to apply for it though. It's open now. It's been open since October 15th, but the deadline's not till the 15th this week. So if you haven't already and you're interested in doing the internship, you can grab one of the QR codes there to learn a little bit more about it, what you need. for terms of material, it's pretty standard stuff for internships. So like your resume, your statement of interest, like what you're looking to do as part of the internship, what do you want to get out of it, and then references. So you'll submit those to Lorenza, who's our coordinator for the internships there at the Rome Center. And then if you're accepted, she'll walk you through the process and get you in touch with an Italian company or organization to Zoom with them, and they'll give you the final green light. In terms of cost, if you're a Loyola student, cost is pretty much going to be the same. It's billed on the same schedule, so they'll go live somewhere around December 15th. If the bursar's on top of things, and it'll be due January 5th. As a reminder, all of your Loyola scholarships, financial aid, anything like that will apply, as well as any Rome Center specific scholarships that you apply for and receive. And those notifications will come out usually like in the week or two before the e-bill is generated. Really, the only thing that's kind of additional to your like a semester here in Chicago is that SAO admin fee and the CISI insurance. Tuition is the same. Room and board is pretty much comparable to what it is here. Tech fee, activity fee, all that kind of stuff. But do budget for other things while you're in Rome. Obviously, you've booked your airfare. You'll want to have cell phone data when you're there, so you'll get a SIM card or an international plan. So budget for that. Getting around Rome on public transportation, any meals outside of campus because you're in Rome. You should obviously go off campus for some meals. Obviously, travel that you might want to do, internal and external to Italy, will vary wildly. So make sure you're budgeting for that. Alana mentioned your taxi from FCO to campus. And that Italian style breakfast too is an additional cost on your e-bill. So keep that in mind as well. And I mentioned scholarships, same deadline, November 15th. Please, 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 if you haven't already, submit a application for a scholarship. We see students anywhere from $500 to $6,000 in scholarship awards. There's a ton of funds that the Rome Center pulls from. It's been around since 1962, so we have a decades-long history of very generous alumni and donors that want to help you succeed and help finance that trip to Rome. All of you should be in this category in terms of eligibility. There are scholarships that are need-based. There are some that are merit-based. So make sure your FAFSA is up to date, which it is. As long as you're in good academic and disciplinary standing with the university, I would highly, highly recommend submitting a scholarship for the Rome Center. That's all it's going to do is help lower your cost in terms of what Loyola bills you, which is more money that you can budget towards traveling or fun experiences while you're abroad in Rome. All right, I'll kick it over to Abby.
Hi everyone, my name is Abby. I actually studied abroad 3 times in undergrad. So I am a big believer in going abroad. I am a travel expert or guru, maybe. I wouldn't say that too far. That's a high praise. But we're just going to be going over everything you might need to know when you go abroad for the next 4 months. So first thing first are the important documents and everything that you are going to need. So things to consider. You are going to need your passport. It has to have your visa inside. If you do not have your visa by January 14th, you cannot go to Rome. You are there for more than 90 days. And as US citizens, if you're there for more than 90 days, you do need a visa to be there. If you arrive in Italy before and you have your visa, keep in mind that your student visa status does not start until January 14th. That is the day that you become a student. You are a student all the way until May 1st. If you are there on May 2nd, on May 6th, you are a tourist. Your tourist visa or just your regular US passport is good. So keep in mind when you are declaring yourself in Italy, when you arrive, if you arrive on the 13th, you are a tourist. If you arrive on the 14th, you are a student. So keep that in mind when you're going through customs, when you're going through TSA, to declare yourself appropriately depending on what time of year it is. If it's March, you are a student, you can show them your student visa. But if it is after May 1, you are a tourist. So keep that in mind when you're traveling throughout Europe and throughout Italy as well. You will need to bring your stamp acceptance letter from the consulate. So this is something that you receive after you get your visa back. So when you get your visa back or your passport book back, the visa will be inside. It's a stamp or a sticker that goes inside your passport book. You are also going to get your stamped acceptance letter returned to you in the mail with your passport book. Please bring that to Italy. If you do not bring it to Italy, we've got issues. So remember to bring that with you. In addition to that, you're also going to want to bring that declaration of presence. That's what's linked on your Go Global platform right now. You do need to complete it and upload it to Go Global, but make sure when you print it out and complete it to also bring it with you to Italy. The student life team is going to be there and they will actually put all of these forms and give it to the police so that they know that you are here as well. So really important to have that filled out beforehand. Um, on top of the acceptance letter and declaration of presence, you're going to want to have a printed out copy of your driver's license and state ID. This is just in case something happens and you maybe lose your passport or you get pickpocketed. You have a backup, you have a proof of identification that's printed that you can show people. Maybe having copies of your debit or credit card would also be useful for those same reasons I just described. That way you know the card number, you know the CVC, everything like that is in a hard copy form in case, worst case scenario, that is lost. Same thing with insurance cards and any important medical information as well. This is going to be important if anyone is on prescription drugs. So if you are needing prescriptions abroad, you have that signed doctor's note that we talked about earlier, and then any other important medical information related to that. That's in case, again, something happens, you have everything there. I recommend keeping all of these documents in a folder. I have a folder when I travel, I can show it to you. It's this shiny folder. Oop, you can't really see it. It's this shiny folder. I keep all of my information inside here. So when you travel, I recommend having a folder of your own with all of your important documents so you don't lose track of these things. Really important in case there is an emergency while you're abroad. We want you to be safe. As for carry-on, so when you're flying, more than likely, if you are flying from O'Hare or if you're flying from a nearby city like St. Louis, you will be having a layover somewhere in Europe. There is no direct flight from O'Hare to FCO in the winter months. So that means you're going to have a layover somewhere. So important that you pack appropriately for that layover situation and for your study abroad, your 4 months while you're there. So in your carry-on, please make sure to have your wallet, your ID, that important folder with all of your documents inside. Your airline ticket, you can get that printed at the front counter, or of course, most airlines also have Apple Wallet tickets. So have that ready to go on your phone. Make sure to check in 24 hours before and get any of the bags that you might not have bought when you bought your ticket. This is going to help save time at the airport and you're going to have you're ultimately going to save less money instead of checking your bags at the gate. You have already checked it in, should save you a couple bucks there as well. And then your cell phone charging cord, earbuds. Airlines, they use the traditional headphone set with the circle hole, not even the square hole. So they do hand out headphones when you board a plane, but if you wanted to bring your own, you're welcome to do so. Some airlines do have Wi-Fi connections, but you might have to pay for that. So I recommend being prepared to not have Wi-Fi. So download any of those movies, those audiobooks, regular books, have things ready to go, and then have those earbud cords if you wanted to bring those. Otherwise, those will probably be given to you depending on your airline. Same thing with your charging cord. Bring your iPhone charging cord, and then of course your charged cell phone. TSA will look to make sure that your phone is charged before entering. So if it's running out of battery, you do want it charged. I always, pro tip for travelers, keep an extra change of clothes in my carry-on. So that's gonna be my backpack, my personal bag. Um, in your personal bag, I like to keep a change of clothes. So that way when I get to Munich or wherever my layover destination is, if that's in France at Charles de Gaulle, or if that's in Heathrow in London, maybe Brussels or Amsterdam. These are going to be one of your layover destinations in Europe. And you might have a longer layover. You might want to be like, you know what, it's morning in Europe. I'm going to start my day fresh. I'm going to brush my teeth. I'm going to comb my hair. I'm going to put on my new clothes. This is going to help you ease that jet lag because you've started your new day in Europe, depending on when that is. So if you arrive in Europe, because they are about 8 to 7 hours ahead, it is nice to start your day fresh, put on new clothes, put on everything you would for that day, and just go from there. So having a change of clothes can be super helpful. And if your flight gets delayed and you have 8 hours now in Munich, you could go off and tour the city if you wanted to. And having that fresh set of clothes might make you feel a little bit more confident in doing that because you're not in the sweats that you were in for 8 hours on that plane. Um, Make sure to pack airline regulation toiletries if you wanted to bring that. However, I do recommend just buying shampoo and conditioner, soap products, bathroom supplies. When you get to Europe, there is a convenience store not even 10 minutes down the hill from where campus is located where you can buy all your shampoo and conditioner and stuff. So save room in your luggage and just buy it there, truthfully. I do recommend bringing some soap with you. Soap and toiletry items like toilet paper are not provided at the Rome Center. You get one roll of toilet paper when you are there, and that is it. You have to purchase the rest of your toilet paper, and there's no hand soap when you get there either, except in the community bathrooms. So if you wanted to have things ready to go, like a mini sizes of those things, you could do that for the first couple days, but you will need to buy shampoo, conditioner, whatnot when you are there as well. And then, of course, in your carry-on, please, please, please pack your prescriptions with you. That way, in case your bags get lost, you are not without them. This is really crucial. If bags are lost, it could be 3 or 4 days before they arrive finally in Rome. So any prescription medication that you take on the daily, it is really important to have that with you in your carry-on bag or your personal bag. So going through the airport, couple things to think about is your look at the TSA website, look at things you can and cannot bring. Most of the time, I have pretty much been okay with everything I've brought overseas, especially if it's in a check bag. If you're worried about it, ultimately the answer is just to check it, put it in your check bag. Things in your carry-on for sure can't be liquids. The one that's gotten stopped for me is yogurt. Don't bring any yogurt because it's too liquidy, right? TSA locks can be really helpful. I recommend putting that on your checked bag. And then I've also used my TSA locks at hostels. So you will be traveling around to different European countries on your long weekends. And TSA locks can be really helpful in those hostel situations. Hostels have sometimes 6 to 10 people sleeping on them at night, and you will have little lockers to lock your things and belongings in. So having a lock to secure your belongings can be really nice and a good peace of mind. So this does have a dual purpose. That's the best part of travel, is finding items that will be dual purposes. So a TSA lock can do that. It's not required, but again, a good peace of mind while you're out traveling. Like I mentioned, check in online. You can arrive to the airport early. We recommend 2 to 3 hours for international flights. Make sure not to leave your luggage unattended. So even if you are carrying that roller carry-on bag and your backpack, try to bring that with you at all times. If you do not have TSA pre-check, you will have to remove your shoes and your laptop from your bag. So we recommend wearing comfortable shoes or just be prepared to retie them if you wear tie shoes. Um, Key is to bring a reusable water bottle. Don't have that fill before you go through security. They do need to be empty, but after security in most US airports and in European airports, you can find a water bottle refill station. Europeans do not use big, hefty water bottles like we are used to, like this one here. I'm gonna do my screen so you can see what water bottle. Anyway, But they don't use big hefty water bottles like this. You're going to want something more slim. You are welcome to buy it there. This is just going to help you more blend in, something similar to this, for a reusable water bottle. I don't recommend wearing a belt when you go through an airport. It's just clunky, and unnecessary. Make sure to wear layers. You never know the temperature, on the plane. And then have your boarding pass easily accessible. Again, that could be on your phone or a printed ticket. That printed ticket might be helpful when you get to Europe because you might not have access to your phone depending on your Wi-Fi settings or your eSIM plan, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So maybe having that printed copy would be really helpful. Stay close to your gate. That way, if there is a delay of any kind, they might hand out vouchers. One time, for example, my flight was delayed and they handed out meal vouchers, and I missed it because I was too far away from my gate. So in case that's the case, stay close to your gate. They might have announcement as well. They might call people if they need further information. And then please, please, please try your best to sleep on the plane. This is key. Like I mentioned, Italy, Europe is about 8 hours ahead. So that means you're probably flying during their nighttime. And so that means your day starts once you get there. So if you don't sleep on the plane, you are pretty much up for almost 2 full days, which is crazy. So please make sure to sleep on the plane. Bring an airplane pillow. As far as currency goes, please talk to your bank before you go abroad. If you have a debit card, especially, those are more likely going to get paused for scam or fraud if you are abroad. So if you have a debit card, a credit card, talk to your bank. Let them know you are going to be in Europe for 4 months. You are going to be traveling around. It is you. It is not fraud. It is not a scam. Your card has not been stolen. So make sure to let them know of your plans. Um, most of Europe does do tap. So if you have a card of any kind and it taps, Europe is pretty familiar with that in addition to Apple Pay. However, in most of the mom and pop small convenience stores, they are more familiar with cash. You can get out cash at any of the ATMs around Italy, around the train station, or there is an ATM on campus as well that you can take cash out at. But sometimes it's helpful to come with a little couple euros with you in your pocket, just in case. And again, Europe, they don't have everything covered like we do here in the States. So for example, water, public bathrooms, they may cost money. It might be maybe $1 euro coin, but it's something that you might have to consider. So having some coins on you at all times can be really helpful. As far as the ATM on campus, it does not accept Chase Bank. So if you bank with Chase, keep in mind you will not be able to use the ATM on campus. However, there are plenty of other ATMs in Rome and in Europe that will still take Chase Bank. But keep in mind having two separate sets of cards, maybe a debit and a credit card. So if one doesn't work, you can revert to another one. Can be helpful. I'm not saying you need to take out two different types of cards, but it might be helpful to have a backup as well and to separate your money. So if you take out a lot of money from an ATM, make sure to leave some of it tucked away in your room with that extra card, and then have some of it out with you. That way, in case you lose your purse somewhere or your wallet gets taken out of your back pocket, you have money and funds somewhere tucked away safe. Communication. This is really important. So you, as we know, study abroad is scary. You're leaving your support system. You're far away from home. You're in a completely new time zone that's about 8 hours ahead. It's important to still communicate with your loved ones and parents. So when you arrive, please text, send them a message, let them know you have arrived safely in Rome or at your layover destination. They are thinking of you. They want to know that you arrived safely. So let them know, but set up a plan before this. You are going to be in a different country. More than likely, the airport is going to have Wi-Fi, so you can hook up to Wi-Fi, send them a message on a platform that takes Wi-Fi. Sometimes the messaging app on your iPhone doesn't connect well with Wi-Fi. So different app alternatives like Instagram, Instagram, for example, Snapchat, maybe Facebook Messenger, or WhatsApp is what I would really recommend getting, are better at connecting to Wi-Fi signals than the messaging app on iPhone. So looking at alternative solutions to texting or messaging might be really key. Truthfully, WhatsApp is the best. It does all of the things that you can do with an iPhone, including FaceTime, calls, text messages. You will still get read receipts. WhatsApp is great. So I highly recommend downloading WhatsApp, and you can tell your parents to do that as well. So that way you can just text them saying, "Hey, I arrived," and or maybe send them a call. That way they know. As far as living in Italy, you can get an international plan with your carrier service here. So if you have a carrier service from Verizon or AT&T, they do have international plans, but this may be a little bit on the pricier end. So keep that in mind. This is probably the most expensive option when having data abroad. So if you are not connected to Wi-Fi, you're just out and about, and you want data, the more expensive option is going to be getting an international plan with your carrier. The next option is getting an Italian SIM card. So there's a couple different stores nearby campus, and of course at the train station and airport, where you can buy an Italian SIM card. This is going to give you data outside of Wi-Fi. So this might be like 5 to 10 gigabytes for the month that you can use, and it is an Italian phone number associated with it. So if you are out exploring wherever in Italy and there is an emergency, you can call the student life team, you can call a friend, you can call the equivalent to 911, 311, in any case, because you have an Italian SIM card and you are not hooked up to Wi-Fi. This is going to be a lesser expensive option than purchasing an international plan with your carrier here. So keep that in mind. And then the third option is an eSIM. So an eSIM is an electronic SIM card. The new iPhones, you can't even take out the SIM. You're unable to do that. So if you have one of the newer iPhones and you can't get your SIM card out, an eSIM is probably going to be the only way forward for you without purchasing an international plan. You can get eSIMs with the Italian companies we recommend are Windtree and Iliad. And again, you'll purchase gigabytes and you'll use that moving forward. Or there's some travel apps that do eSIMs as well. My favorite is Nomad. I use Nomad all the time. I've used it in South America, in Asia, in Europe, and I've had no problems in Africa. So I highly recommend looking at different apps, including the ones listed here. And you can use them in different countries. These are not going to have phone numbers associated with them. So keep that in mind. If you are trying to call someone, it's not going to work. So if you go to Germany for the weekend, I would recommend using Nomad, and then still having your Italian SIM card to revert back to in case you needed to make a phone call. I'm happy to discuss this more if you have more questions, but I want to move on in consideration of time. Packing. So clothes. Italy dresses for the seasons, whereas Americans dress for the weather. So keep that in mind while you're there. Spring is cold. It's winter in Rome. Sometimes students forget that because it's warmer than Chicago doesn't mean it isn't still cold. So make sure to bring multiple different layers. Bring a winter jacket. Please bring a scarf, hat, mittens. You will still need them, especially if you go higher than Rome. If you go up to Amsterdam or Switzerland or Berlin or Austria, those places are cold. It is winter. It feels just like Chicago in those countries. So make sure to bring a winter jacket while you are there. It is amazing how many students I see in January at the Rome Center that do not have jackets. So please bring a jacket. Again, Italians and Europeans mainly they dress much nicer than Americans. So they're not really walking around in yoga pants or leggings unless they're actually working out. Jeans, pants, trousers are more common, and you'll see that more. So if you wanted to adapt and blend in, fashion is a good way to do that. But again, you don't have to change your whole identity while you're abroad for 4 months. Again, they dress for the season. So they are dressed for winter versus dressing all bundled up for the cold. So a little bit difference in styles. You'll see that when you get there as well. I recommend just using one checked bag. You don't need 2 checked bags. Just one checked bag will be enough for the 108 days that you're there. I promise. There are laundry facilities. You can do laundry, and you will be buying a bunch of cute things that you don't think about while you're there as well. travel. So one check bag, please don't overpack, and be mindful of weight limits. At the Rome Center, they will provide you with sheets, one pillow and a pillowcase. So you don't need to bring any of that. However, all of the plugs in Italy are EU plugs. So the plugs that we have here, the two prongs, they do not exist in Europe. So make sure to get a portable converter and adapter, so that way you can plug your phone, your charging cord, charging devices into the wall. So you will need a new outlet. You can Google an international charging plug and buy one online that's universal. And then you are welcome to bring your laptop. There's computers on campus though, and then class supplies you are welcome to bring as well. But you of course can get that at the local convenience store. Please don't ship anything to the Rome Center, because that means it will have to go through customs. If you are shipping things from the US to Italy, it will go through customs. It does have to pay a fee. That fee can be pretty expensive. So I recommend buying things when you get to Italy, either from the Amazon Italy account or just from a European site. And that'll save you from it having to go through customs, and save you some extra cash there as well. And Alana for international health insurance. Thank you so much.
Being savvy. Wonderful. Okay, so let's talk about CISI insurance. For most of you, this might be your first time navigating health insurance. You've always maybe depended on mom, dad, or guardians to kind of guide you through that process, but you're going to be overseas in you are going to be working with the international health insurance that we provide to you. This CISI insurance is linked to your itinerary record. So you are covered for the duration of time in which you're studying abroad. So we want to make sure that we set you up for success and explain how that works so that you can navigate that when you are overseas or before an emergency happens. So we want to make sure that you're familiar with the features and what's needed for that insurance. So let's move on to it. So just kind of an overview of what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the costs involved with the CISI insurance. We're going to talk about that enrollment, and we're also going to talk about contact information related to CISI. First off, the insurance costs. As I mentioned earlier, it's mandatory that you are enrolled in CISI. And so that fee, as we had shown earlier in the presentation, is billed to your locus account. So you will see that pop up on your e-bill. And then, of course, all those billing and due dates follow the Bursar's website. So that e-bill will be posted on December 15th, and it's due in early January. So making sure you're aware of that. And the cost for CISI for that semester is $300. So that's the amount that you will see on that locus account. So enrollment. So our office does the enrollment with CISI about 1 month prior to your departure. So when we do that enrollment, I typically send out an email to the group saying, I've completed the enrollment. Be on the lookout for an email. It's called a welcome package. And so that welcome package email is going to come directly from CISI. And so I identify it here so you're aware. It's enrollments@culturalinsurance.com, and the subject line will say CISI materials. Sometimes that can go into the junk or the spam folder. So after I send that initial announcement to you all that I've done the enrollment, start looking. And if you don't see it, go into those junk or spam folders and see if you can find it there. If not, of course, reach out to me. But what that email will contain, it will contain your electronic insurance ID card. And as Abby mentioned in those documents that you want to bring along with you to the Rome Center when you're going overseas, is you might want to print that out. I always recommend printing out a hard copy for you, and also maybe printing out a hard copy for your parents or guardians back home, so they're familiar with it. In addition to it, on that email, that welcome package email, it will have a link to the policy brochure. This outlines the coverage under your plan. So I think it's important, it's pretty hefty and long, but take a look at it. You can look at it now. And so we have that QR code here. So if you're interested, take a peruse, look through it. Sometimes parents want to see what's involved. So guide them to this as well if they have questions. In addition to that, you're also going going to have attached to that welcome package email a claim form. This is if you seek any sort of treatment and you need to be reimbursed for that. There's a claim form. It's very straightforward. It's helpful. So I always tell students just take a look at that before you depart because you're going to be in a situation most likely where you are going to need to get reimbursed. So it's nice to kind of have an idea of what that looks like and what you have to submit prior to being in that emergency situation. And then lastly, it's going to provide you instructions on how to download two different things. One is going to be the My CISI Traveler app, which you can download onto your phone, super helpful in the moment. And the other is going to give you instructions on how to create a My CISI login. This is a portal, so you can access this on your computer, your laptop, always a bigger screen, right? And both of them complement each other. They all provide the same features. It's just usage, whether you prefer to look at it through your phone or on a computer. So that is super helpful. They'll provide you instructions and links to do so. So let's talk about that situation, kind of a step-by-step for minor illnesses or injuries that may occur while you are studying abroad. Of course, if you feel sick, we want you to go reach out to the on-campus nurse or the doctor. As we mentioned earlier in the presentation, we do have Dr. Guillermo. He is available 24/7 via phone, text, or WhatsApp. It's wonderful. You don't even have that here at Loyola. So it's an amazing resource for you. But you also have those times, and you'll learn about that in orientation when the nurse will be on campus or when the doctor's on campus, things like that. If you have an in-person appointment with Dr. Guillermo, I just want to make sure that you're aware that payment is required for that first time visit. So this is where that claim form comes into hand. You're going to submit that invoice to CISI for reimbursement. So if you are going to see him in person, you are going to utilize that claim form. So again, we want to make sure you're familiar with it before you are in that situation. If you require more specialized care is needed, you want to locate a provider. And so there are two types of providers. There are preferred and non-preferred providers. The preferred providers are accepted. They accept that direct claim payment from CISI. So that's really important. Sometimes you want to make sure and not have to go through the hassle. So when you're doing a search for a doctor for specialized care, maybe you have an earache or an ear infection, something like that, and Dr. Guillermo can only do so much, and he recommends that you go see someone else, a certain provider, an ENT or something like that. You want to do that search either on your phone or through that CISI portal, and you want to look for those preferred providers so that you don't have to work with the claims and the reimbursement. But if you decide that you are going to go with a non-preferred provider, I always recommend that you contact the AXA assistance, and it's on the backside of that insurance card. And I'll show you that shortly to kind of establish that direct payment process, what that looks like. Healthcare over in Europe is it's more affordable than it is in the US. So don't be fearful that, oh my goodness, I'm going to go see an ENT and it's going to be thousands of dollars. And because it's non-preferred, I have to pay that up front. Usually it's so much more affordable. So, but AXA assistants can help you navigate that. So we want to make sure that you're utilizing them as a resource when you're there. But we also want to make sure that you're prepared so that you are going to have to pay for some services at the time of treatment and then submit that claim. So that's important to have that understanding up front. So, step by step for major illnesses. Of course, if something major happens, an illness or an injury, seek medical emergency help right away. Do not delay. Don't worry about preferred, non-preferred. Get the help that you need. The second thing that we always say is make sure that you contact the Student Life Emergency phone number so that they're aware of the situation and can help guide you. and or Dr. Guillermo for any assistance or guidance. It's a scary situation. So again, you have resources there, people, boots on the ground that can help you with that and navigating it. And then, of course, the other option that we tell students is to call AXA assistance, which is, again, as I mentioned, on the back of your CISI card, and they can open a case for you. They're available 24/7, 365 days out of the year. So again, that's a resource to you on the phone. So make sure that you're utilizing all of those people to help navigate that situation. So this is kind of, I keep talking about the card. This is a great visualization for you. This is what you will see when you get that welcome package email. This is the electronic card. So it will have your information, your policy, your dates of coverage, all of that here. So one, you'll have it on your phone, on your My CISI app, which is great. So you can use that if you're going to a doctor or an emergency situation. You can print it out as well, like I mentioned. So that's very helpful. On the back side of that, you're going to see for emergencies, here's that AXA assistance. So just follow the information here in order to get in contact with them so that you have it accessible and you know what to do. This is just a visualization for you as well about that CISI Traveler app. So it gives you lots and lots of features, which are fantastic. It gives you like itinerary records, documents, locating that provider. What we just talked about, you have that. A medical or security emergencies, filing a claim, contacting CISI. So all these different options are here for you. And so not only do you get that when you are enrolled in the instructions for that, but here's a little app guide as well that we provide to you. And if you have any problems with registering for that CISI app, here is a phone number for assistance as well. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, we will have these slides posted on our Go Global brochure page so that you can go back and reference it for ease prior to your departure. And then this gives you a good visualization of what that CISI Traveler portal looks like. Very similar. It has all the information as the app does here, and so that can help you. And if you have questions, things like that. So lots of great resources for you to kind of investigate and look at prior to your departure and get familiar with. So with that being said, I want to talk about app downloads and registrations. These are things that I want you to, they're safety. They're safety features for you. And so we want to make sure that you have them on your phone and ready to go for when you travel abroad. And so we're going to talk about the Alert Traveler app. We're going to talk about step registration. We're going to talk about the MFA Microsoft Authenticator. And lastly, we're going to talk about the Telegram Messenger. So first is the Alert Traveler. What is Alert Traveler? Alert Traveler is a risk management tool. And so we do provide you a link to the user guide, which is super helpful to have a better understanding of what it is. But as I mentioned, it's a tool for you to help mitigate risk management. A lot of students say, well, who has access to this? You all do because you have that in your Go Global application. And I'll go through that a little bit later on in the presentation, how to access that and to activate it. Alert Traveler will send notifications based on your itinerary record and your GPS location if something's going on as far as an emergency in that vicinity, that area. So you will get alerts. You'll allow those notifications to come through. You can adjust the itinerary, so it's linked to your itinerary record, but if you do some additional travels outside of that record, so outside of Italy on the weekends and you go up to Germany, you can adjust your Alert Traveler so that it's aware of where you're going and you can put down the dates and the country and things like that. So it's flexible in that sense if you use it wisely. And a lot of students ask, well, when can I download this app? You can do it now. It's been available to you for some time now, so I encourage you to do it before you depart and do it as soon as possible, which is great. So downloading and activating the Alert Traveler app is important. We provide here, and again, you'll have the ability to go back to these slides later on, QR codes, which are helpful. So if you're iOS, you would scan this one. If you're Android, you would scan this QR code. And after you've done that, you are going to then, from your mobile device, go to your Go Global application. And when you're on your applicant home, and so here is again the QR code to get you to the Go Global application, but you want to then go navigate to the applicant home. And when you're there, you're going to see these tabs at the top. We want you to select the Alert Traveler tab. And when you do so, you're going to see that you're going to have a password, a passcode here. And we want you to enter in your US mobile number, the phone number that you're going to be using when you study abroad. So this kind of starts that whole communication from downloading the app to activating your device with Alert Traveler. And again, if you have questions and things don't work the way as smoothly as I'm saying here, please feel free to reach out to me and I'm happy to help walk you through those steps. And so once you are in the Go Global Alert Traveler activating it, you're going to insert that passcode, that password that we saw here, and paste that into that Alert Traveler app. And so the communication begins with the app itself and activating it on the backside of things. So the next thing that I want to talk about is the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program, or STEP. This is a free service provided by the U.S. Department of State, and this is where American citizens can register their travel with the government. And this is great for emergency situations. It takes about 20 minutes to complete, so just be mindful when you're going there. And with this, you get a lot of wonderful benefits. You get that real-time updates about health, weather, safety, and security in the country that you're going to. It also gives you information on the local U.S. Embassy as well. So should you lose your passport, this will help guide you where to go if you have to renew or get a new one. And then it gives you information such as like any emergencies, such as a natural disaster, civil unrest, or family emergencies. So we really encourage you and want you to do that registration, and it is contained within your Go Global. But again, of course, we provide a QR code for quick reference for you. So let's talk about the MFA, the multi-factor authentication, and the Microsoft Authenticator. Some of you, if you're a Loyola student, may already have this on your phone. It is very helpful with ITS and security measures to protect your data. And so we want to make sure that you have that on your mobile device that you're bringing to Italy, because it is utilized for a lot of the software systems like Sakai and Locus and things like that. So make sure that you have this ready to go prior to your departure, so that you can connect with the Wi-Fi and be able to access those software systems easily. And so again, another preemptive, let's get this all done before you go, taken care of. And then lastly, our on-site staff in Rome uses an app called Telegram. And so this is really important. It is mandatory to download that Telegram app to your mobile device, again, before coming to Italy. It is used by that Rome Res Life team. We want you to please sign up with your full name. So don't do nicknames. We want first and last name. So when they're sending things out, they need to identify who's receiving it on what end and back and forth communication. So again, it's important to use your full name. And here are the QR codes again to do the App Store for iOS phones or Androids going through the Google Play. So that's important to have that completed as well. So ETA, this is new, so I like to talk about it. It's an electronic travel authorization, and this is in relation to the United Kingdom. So an ETA gives you permission to travel through and to the UK. You do not need an ETA if you are just transiting through a UK airport, if you have a layover and you're going on to Italy. As long as you don't pass their border control piece, you do not have to have an ETA. However, You all are going to be traveling on weekends. So yeah, I would say most of you might travel up to the United Kingdom. And so if that's the case, if you're spending any time in the United Kingdom, you will need an ETA. And so that application is available now. And again, we put the QR codes there for you. It's very quick and easy to do. It takes about maybe 3 days less to get approval. And it's good for 2 years. So you would fill out this application, and it costs a little under $20. It can fluctuate a little bit, perhaps. I think it slowly has gone up a little bit, but it's good to have, and it's connected directly to your passport. So there is no like a student visa stamp or anything that gets applied into your passport. When you do this online, it connects directly because you do enter in your passport information. It'll connect the system and indicate that you do have an ETA. So if you do travel to the United Kingdom and you will be staying there, you will need that. All right, so let's move on to the next one here. Let's see. We have, oh, this is a video, and you'll get access to this later, but it gives some great little tips on packing and stuff like that. So we're going to just move on. And then lastly, let's talk about some upcoming events. We have one more visa workshop. So I think the bulk of you have already submitted, and that's my hope. But there are a few of you stragglers out there, and we really need you to get this completed sooner versus later. So we will be hosting one of our last visa workshops, and it will be this week on November 12th, tomorrow from 2 to 4 p.m. here in the Sullivan Center, Suite 206. I encourage you, if you are not at that point and you have not submitted, please, please come to us or reach out to me so that I can help guide you so that we can speed this process up and get that submitted. I don't want your student visa to be delayed and therefore have a late arrival to the Rome Center. In addition to that, we have a Rome Center Spring Social, and that will be on December 3rd from 11 to 1 p.m. in the Damon MPR. And then lastly, we're going to have an opportunity for what we call a student life town hall. And that will, it's subject to change and you'll get further communication on it, but that'll most likely be on December 16th or 17th, and it'll be via Zoom. And you'll have the opportunity to meet all those Rome Res Life people that we showed you earlier on. In the presentation to kind of ask those questions. It's a great opportunity to kind of meet and greet and ask those questions before you get there. And so with that being said, last things, next steps, we want to make sure that you are reviewing those post-decision requirements in your study abroad portal. All those requirements were due November 1st. And so you've been getting communication from our office to do that if you're missing things. The exception to that, of course, is going to be the upload of your student visa. We know that's going to take some time, and we expect you that as soon as you do get that, that you will upload it to your application. But everything else in that application should be completed or should have been completed by November 1st. And like I said, I do know there's a lot still outstanding. And so you will be receiving those individual email communications to complete those. So, don't take offense. We are just trying to wrap up things before your departure. Lastly, another thing that we say as far as next steps is visit your doctor and talk about those prescriptions like we mentioned and on-site treatment. If there's something that you need to discuss with me or you have questions about CISI, reach out to me about prescriptions. We've talked about the CDC, we've talked about the travel state gov, things that are allowed, not allowed. Have that communication, check those resources, talk to us. We'll get you in connection with CISI and we'll make sure that we have a plan in place that you are prepared for that travel. Make those important copies of those important documents to leave with family, a set to keep with your family and a set to keep with you during your travel time. Very important to have that. Make sure you're reading all those pre-departure materials. I know you get inundated with a lot of emails, but we're sending them for a reason. They have important information. So please take the time to read it, follow the instructions, and complete everything. And then kind of the fun part, just wrapping it up. Follow the Rome Center on Instagram. There's great little features that happen on there, tidbits of information. You get to see people that are there currently during the semester. And so it's amazing what you pick up on those little Instagram posts that might be helpful or just get you excited to go to Rome. And so, with that, we are going to stop the recording. And then, if you have questions, feel free to unmute yourself, ask questions, or put it in the chat. And our team here will help walk you through with those answers.
One quick thing, Alana, before
Yeah, yeah.
we end recording. Um, I don't, I'm sorry if you already mentioned it. If you're a Loyola student, we'll be having a Rome social for the spring students on December 3rd from
Mhm.
11 to 1. So you can come by, you can stay for the whole time, you can stay for 15 minutes, but it's just a way for you all to kind of socially meet and mingle with your fellow Rome cohort people. And we'll have food and beverage.
Yay.
That's all. Thank you.
Does anyone have questions? We're very appreciative that you attended this pre-departure orientation. We will send the slides and the recordings out. For anyone who was unable to attend either in person or via Zoom, a quiz will also be sent to those individuals to review the video and take the quiz. I think lots of people have been getting questions in the chat and those have been answered. I think I'm just
As
pulling it
far
up.
as the question in the chat from Amina, are you asking about what do you mean bring for your rooms? There is a bathroom, a fridge, a wardrobe, your bed that has sheets and a pillow. Um, but were you a desk, lamps? What were you thinking? What else were you thinking, like decorations? I don't. um, yeah, for decorations, at least for my study abroad, I actually just printed out a bunch of photos from home that made me happy and stuck them on the wall. You're not going to want to take up a bunch of room in your suitcase on I mean furniture you don't need to bring at all. Um and other objects, I don't think there really needs to be. You're not gonna be spending a lot of time in your dorm room, truthfully. You're gonna be going out and exploring, you're gonna be on campus, you're gonna be connecting with people all over the city. So your dorm room is not something I'd worry about, but if you wanted to bring something from home, that I would bring some small items that can fit in your suitcase, um, like pictures or something that you can hang up.
Students make it very homey when they get there anyway. Like that's a great idea, Abby. Like any pictures that are important to you and make you feel better. But a lot of students throughout the course of their travels pick up a lot of postcards or other little posters. And so it's kind of organic. You start to like apply those to your wall and you make it a little bit homier. But I would not be dragging over big, large items. As Abby said, you're hopefully not going to be in that room very long in the sense of you're going to be out and about exploring the city, meeting with others, out in the courtyard, things like that. So, make it homey, but don't bring heavy, bulky things in. Organically, you'll collect things as you go along.
For example, I bought a tapestry when I was studying abroad, and I still have that hanging up today. And that tapestry was a great decoration that was lightweight and easy to bring home with me.
One
As
of the,
far as
oh, go
sorry,
ahead.
Alina. I was just gonna say, as far as sheets, it is a comforter, and then you'll have that fitted sheet as well. There is a blanket. It's a pretty heavy blanket, wool, like, or wool, I don't know, that's maybe not the material. But there is a blanket that they provide as well. And then a comforter and the fitted sheet.
I wanted to address a question. What happens if I didn't complete all the post-decision requirements yet? Am I allowed still to go? Yes, you are, but you do need to get that done sooner versus later. So I would encourage you, make that a priority over the weekend. Get those post-decision requirements completed. And you'll continue to get annoying emails from me and the team about that, especially, and I'll just highlight this, if you do not have flights in your Go Global, you are hindering the process of us giving you the much needed acceptance and insurance letters for the visa. So if I don't see a flight in there, chances are you're nowhere near to getting your documents ready for the visa submission. So that sets off some alarms, and I've already reached out to some of those students regarding that. So let's get a move on that. But yeah, all those requirements should be completed before you leave. And we want that completed as soon as possible.
For Annie's question, you can absolutely bring a check bag, a carry-on, and a personal item like a backpack is what I would recommend. You might, though, have to pay for that check bag or carry-on. Not all airlines have free baggage. So depending on what airline you're flying or what ticket you bought, that might include, like economy tickets, for example, do include typically a check bag, but make sure to check your ticket. I don't recommend bringing anything more than that, because you don't need that many clothes for 4 months.
I just wanted to follow up, and Marley answered this, which is great. But for that ETA, you need to do that before you go to the United Kingdom. So I would encourage you, if you have even an inkling of perhaps going up to the United Kingdom, get it done now. And like I said, it's a minimal amount, and it's good for 2 years. So better to have it done ahead of time than to encounter any delays or not being allowed to go into the country because you don't have it. So just make sure to follow those links and answer those questions and file for that if you are planning on going up to the United Kingdom. See. Any other questions? Scrolling through too here. All right, well, just make sure that you have all the apps that we talked about downloaded, login set up for CISI, Alert Traveler, things like that. That will make your life a little bit smoother when you're overseas and you're in any situations. And reach out to us. You know, we're here again as a resource, so we want to set you up for success. So, any questions you have, we're happy to help and provide guidance. Oh, this is a good one. What should we do if a January flight gets canceled or delayed? Yeah, you are going to be flying in January, and there's a potential of a snowstorm or something if you're coming from the East Coast. That does happen. We do get that. Just keep our office informed, or inform generally Rome at luc.edu and just say, hey, I'm so and so. I'm scheduled to be on arrival on the 14th. I'm delayed due to a flight. Here's my new information. Because of course we're checking you all in and we get a little nervous, and that's why we have those flights there, because we go, where is so and so? They were supposed to be here by, 2 p.m. on the 14th. And if you're not there, we get a little nervous. So again, that communication factor is key. Keep us informed, so that we can update the Rome Center as well. And keep in mind, that's why we want you to communicate via Rome at luc.edu, because not only is that covered by our staff here in Chicago, but our staff in Rome is also monitoring that email account. So there is a time difference, right? And so if it's in the middle of the night here in the US, our Rome people will see it. It's morning there. So just keep us updated in that respect. All right, everybody. Well, again, thank you so much for attending. We'll send out all the information to you, and hopefully we're knocking out all those requirements.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Get excited. This is so
Yeah.
fun.
Ciao tutti. Woo!